Emily Foden of Viola Yarns, and I'm speaking to you from the front room of the old general store where I live and work. It's located in a small place called Mooresburg, which is in southwestern Ontario, Canada. Viola is named after my two grandmothers. They both were called Viola, and both were really wonderful knitters. So as a really young person, I used to watch them knit and be in awe of what they were doing and making, and still have a very cherished Christmas stocking that one of my grandmas made. We lived on the Scarborough Bluffs, which is in the east end of Toronto, and the view from the house looks out over Lake Ontario. So even as a very young person, I began to appreciate and focus on the colors in nature, the changing seasons, the way it affected the environment around me, and the way it made me feel. And I think that that's the biggest part of Viola and the colors that I make now. Viola began almost by accident. I was working in a knitting store in Toronto, and it was the first time I had seen hand-dyed yarn, and I very quickly decided I would try, and I experimented in my parents' basement. I brought the first few skeins back into the shop, and friends there wanted to buy them immediately. I was not prepared for how quickly it grew from that point, but it was totally amazing. It did reach a point where I think I just became quite overwhelmed. It was time for a little shift and maybe a little bit of distance. And so that's what led me to pause Viola and plan my adventure holiday in the UK. I moved to Linton, where John and Juliet are based, and was really lucky to be able to live in their dreamy seaside world. One day, John was standing there explaining one of his many amazing yarn dreams to me, and it involved blending dyed tops in the comb to make a kind of heathered sort of a yarn. And I, of course, loved that. And I said, well, I've got color ideas. Then I spent a couple of days with hand carders blending the colors and coming up with the ideas. They called it Viola, which I know has created confusion because it's not hand-dyed at all. It's just blended colors that I came up with. Yeah, I think they're still making them now, which is pretty great. While I had lived in England, my parents bought it's over 100-year-old general store. My mom also made a point of sending me lots of photos saying, look at how great it would be to dye yarn here. Don't you want to come home? And these shelves would be perfect to put yarn on. And she was right. It's in such a beautiful place. There's mostly farmland around, and we also have a large Amish community around. So we have really little farms with plows pulled by 6 or 7 horses. It's pretty wonderful. The first project I worked on when I returned to Canada from England was a custom colorway for Loop's 10th anniversary. I love being given a brief, and so coming up with Speckled Mist was really fun, and it was a really lovely, gentle transition back into busy work life for me. I really love the remoteness, and yeah, it's especially in the winter. I've always liked quiet time, especially on my own, where I can think, look at the sky, trees, water. Yeah, nothing can beat it. And in the wintertime, the sound of the snow is absolutely magical. So Knits About Winter came about out of the blue for me. An email from Megan and Lydia of Pom Pom said, should we make a book? And I immediately said yes. They left it with me to dream up what I might want the book to be about, and very, very quickly, Knits About Winter came to mind. It's mainly because it's just a completely magical time of year for me, and living in this old general store where the people who built the house are always on your mind, I couldn't help but think about what winter was like for them. While they did get to enjoy the sparkly ice and snow, there was also a more serious element of staying warm and being comfortable. So Knits About Winter was about having finished things that could be really useful and practical and warm in the wintertime, but of course are still beautiful and fun to make. The book launch night at Loop was so wonderful and so exciting for me. It was already absolutely amazing to see Knits About Winter come together and be a real object, one that I'm still really proud of. And then to be able to celebrate it at Loop was just totally a dream come true. It's such a beautiful place, and I'm so happy that Viola yarn is in there. The evening was beautiful. It was great to be able to share it with so many lovely people, lots of people that I think I had met for the first time that night. I only knew through Instagram or internet knitting world. Oh my goodness, it was magical. Now that I am settled in Mooresburg and Viola is settled here as well, I've realized that my connection has deepened with nature. And it took a little while before I started to notice the change in the Viola colors. I'm away from a big body of water, and that has had a really big effect on the colors that I see all the time. Studying the colors here, consciously or subconsciously, I think has been a really important part in my deepened connection with nature, and really made me feel like I am a part of this ongoing process here of what the world around me is doing.